story by the Daily Mail, article by Nick White. US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Defence Secretary James "Mad Dog" Mattis arrive in Australia for the crunch talks on the London terror attacks and North Korea. The top US cabinet ministers have arrived in Australia for critical talks on terrorism and North Korea in the wake of the two attacks in Britain. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Defence Secretary James Mattis landed in Sydney on Sunday night for meetings with Australian counterparts on Monday. The pair will discuss the important security topics with Foreign Minister Julia Bishop and Defence Minister Ms Payne in the annual AUSMIN dialogue. Mad Dog Mattis was greeted at the airport by Ms Payne as they shook hands at the foot of his plane steps. North Korean missile tests, the recent spate of terrorist attacks and China's military build-up in the South China Seas are likely to dominate the talks. The talks are usually annually held, but it's nearly been 2 years since the last AUSMIN gathering because elections in the USA and Australia in 2016 made it difficult to schedule the high-level talks. Ms Bishop said this round of talks will be one of the most important in many years. Observers say terrorism is likely to be the upmost in the participants' minds given the recent deadly bombings in Manchester, Jakarta, Baghdad and Kabul. But the most pressing issue facing Australia and the US is North Korea's ballistic missile tests. The risk is that terrorism has been front of mind for the last couple of weeks. We've had Australians as well as Americans killed, US Studies Centre research fellow Dougal Robertson said. So the risk is they give terrorism far more billing than North Korea, which is a particularly important regional issue in Australia's region. Mrs Robinson said that the US and Australian officials would discuss contingency operations and potential diplomatic approaches in relation to North Korea, which has sparked alarm across the region by carrying out 9 missile tests this year. The US and Australia urged China to put diplomatic and economic pressures on North Korea to end its missile program amid fears Pyongyang's long-range missiles could one day hit both nations. Pyongyang warned Australia in April that it could be the target of a nuclear weapon strike if it continued to blindly follow the US. Mrs Bishop said there was no doubt Mr Trump changed the dynamics of the discussion and warned China it was not in its interest to have a nuclear weaponized North Korea. It creates a huge instability for the region. That's not in China's interests, and it's not in anybody else's interests either, she said. But while the USA and Australia hope China can persuade North Korea to dump its missile program, they remain concerned about Beijing's construction of artificial islands in the South China Seas. The USA sparked fury from China when USA Navy patrol came within 12 nautical miles of one of the man-made islands last month, as it carried out a freedom of navigation patrols in the key trade routes. During the visit to Sydney this week, veteran Republican Senator John McCain accused China of being a bully and suggested Australia consider joining the US and other Asia-Pacific neighbours in future patrols.